Welcome to the Divine Connection podcast. I'm your host, Cristina Aroche, and together we are walking the path of discovering your true self and the alignment with your soul. Through these conversations, you will experience a deeper level of connection with yourself and the universe, and most importantly, you will trust in your spiritual journey ahead. Let's begin. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Divine Connection podcast. Today, I am bringing through some spiritual guidance for a question that was submitted. And so the question says, I feel like my soul is being held captive and I can't focus on creating my space. So it technically wasn't a question, but it was a submission that came through for the podcast. And so I want to bring some guidance here because I feel like this feeling as though you're stuck, that you can't focus, like you can't actually break through, create a breakthrough is such a common thing that a lot of people experience at some point on their journeys. I think that we've all been there. I know that I've been there where it has felt like I was so stuck and like nothing that I would try to do would create a breakthrough or a shift or a feeling of momentum. And when we go through those experiences where we do not feel any sort of quote unquote movement for a long time, it can cause us to lose hope. It can cause us to feel anxious, to feel like we're never going to get out of this feeling or situation. So the first thing that I want to share is that I do feel a whole bunch of angels coming through. Specifically, I feel Archangel Gabriel, or I feel Archangel Shamuel, Uriel, Raphael. Like there's like just this whole crew of angels that I feel that are coming in to support you. And for anyone who's going through this kind of situation or can relate to this feeling, this guidance is also for you. So this is for specifically the person who submitted this, but also for anyone else who's listening in. And one of the first things that I want us to just be aware of is understanding that obviously the submission was very short and I don't have a lot of context, but depending on what kind of environments we are in, people that we're interacting with, things that we've gone through, things that we're listening to, whatever the situation is, we can be exposed to a lot of different energies and a lot of different vibrational frequencies. And because of that, when we are not aware or not being intentional, we can unintentionally be connecting with lower vibrational energies. There could be spiritual attacks happening. There could be all sorts of things that are going on. And I don't say this to scare anyone off. I'm just saying it as a way for you to just simply know and be aware that that is a thing and that it's something that we get to be empowered to be able to handle those kinds of situations. I don't feel like those kinds of situations come up as a way to, as like doom and gloom. It's more so of I'm being asked to really step into my sovereignty and into my spiritual strength and my spiritual power and to break away from whatever source that might be coming from. So the first thing that I want you to pay attention to is just looking at your environment and the people who are around you, the things that you're exposing yourself to, what you're listening to, all sorts of things like that, to just simply be aware of where there might be these subtle moments where you actually are feeling disempowered, where environments where you potentially don't feel good enough, environments where you feel like something is missing or that, something is broken inside of you or whatever kind of thing like that. That's often the first indication when we feel like in these situations or places or environments where we feel a disconnect from our wholeness, we feel a disconnect from our power, and we feel a disconnect from our true self. That's the first place that we get to kind of just be aware of. And they can come in very subtly because we can have experiences where the environment or the thing that we're listening to or the person that we're interacting with at first can feel like it's light and it's love and it has a great message or whatever. But then subtly, it can create feelings of disconnect from our true self. I know that I've been in situations like that in the past where I at first felt like, no, like this is light and love and whatever, like this is a great message. But then I would notice myself beginning to not feel as worthy or not feel as good enough, or just have these moments where I didn't trust myself, or I would start to look more externally for validation, or try to um you know, not copy, but just like almost like imitate whatever the thing was versus actually being my true authentic self. And that's when I knew, like, whoa, wait a second, this isn't the right situation. This isn't the right thing. I'm moving further away from my true self than actually more in alignment. So that's the first thing that I highly recommend, is for you to just do an assessment of your environment. Like I said, this includes people, things that you're listening to, things that you're exposing yourself to, whatever the thing is, and just do an assessment. And if it doesn't feel like there's anything there, nothing stands out, because like I said, sometimes it's not as obvious, then you can also just say a prayer, and say a prayer to the divine, and ask the divine to reveal to you the things that are not in alignment with your true divine self, to reveal to you where there is an environment or a space or things that you're exposing yourself to that are not actually supporting your growth. And just saying a simple prayer like that, like, dear God, angels, universe, whatever you like to say, please reveal to me where in my current environment is there an energy that is no longer supporting my growth, where it's no longer supporting my connection to my true self, where it's not supporting my connection to the divine, however you want to word it, but just kind of like reveal to me, help me to see more clearly where I need to let things go, or where I need to cut ties, or where I need to remove the exposure to whatever. So that's the first place. Like, you want to just assess your environment and just be aware of what is contributing to your growth and your healing and your alignment, your empowerment, and what is not, and to begin to just remove whatever is not supporting you. Okay, so that's number one. The second thing is then to come back to your connection with the divine. So again, I want you, and I've talked about this in previous episodes, where I really emphasize us exploring what that relationship to the divine means to us individually. So whether it's God, whether it's the divine, whether it's source energy, whether it's whatever else, like, that part is whatever feels best for you. But I do feel like when we have that direct connection with what most people might consider like the creator of the universe, or the higher power, the energy that is guiding all of us, whatever that is for you, to come back to that connection. Because oftentimes when we feel like, like the question said, my soul is being held captive, or I can't focus on creating space, or just even on creation, if we can't focus on creation, or if it feels like creation is not flowing through us effortlessly, so to speak, then what we need to come back to is our connection back to God. We need to come back to that source. We need to come back to the energy that is flowing through us, or that is meant to be flowing through us. Because if you think about it, whatever that connection is for you, at the end of the day, as a soul, you are an extension of that. This is the description that I always come back to. Imagine God or the divine, or whatever that source energy is for you, as this big ball of light. And as a soul, you are this ray of light that is extending out. So all of us, all souls, are these rays of light that extend out from that original source of energy, that original ball of light and love. And you are an extension out of it. So we are all these beautiful rays of light. But where is the ray coming from? It's coming from that original source. And so if we are having a hard time being that ray, and essentially having that extension of light flowing through us, through our expression, through the way that we are showing up in the world, then it means that there is something going on with the connection to the source. And so we need to look at that. We need to take a look at what is obscuring that connection. Where is that connection being either we're either being distracted or something else is trying to replace it, or whatever the case is, where it doesn't feel like it's a pure aligned connection anymore. And knowing that we can always come back to it. And again, to me, the simplest way to do this is through prayer. And the simplest way is to really just call upon that support. This is also where the angels come in and bring through a lot of that healing, supportive energy, where when we call upon the angels, they are surrounding us with that divine light and love that helps us to see things from a different perspective, or that helps us to be in a space where we can really feel and receive that energy. Even if you don't know exactly what it's saying or exactly where it's leading you, but you just know that you're surrounded by light and love right now. That's the key thing that you want to focus on. Right now is not the time to necessarily receive like, what's my next step, or what's the guidance, this. It's more so like a space of, I need to be in my own space right now, removing anything else that's a distraction, removing anything else that's disempowering, and in my own energy, in my own space, I can come back to God. And coming back to that divine connection for you will help to even further have a clear vision and a clear sense of what is for you and what is not for you, what is contributing to your growth and to your spiritual empowerment, and what is not. And it's kind of like fine tuning that and being even more aware of that connection, of that space. So that's the second step, is coming back to your connection with the divine. So again, through prayer, through calling upon the angels to support you. I have a meditation library that's full of incredible healing energy with the divine, with the angels. So you can browse that if you feel called to that. I'll leave the link in the show notes for you. But essentially, this is a space where you can really take the time. Again, it's not a rush. We're not trying to rush the process. We're not trying to like, oh, I got to do this. Like, come on, faster. But just the focus of being, and being in your own energy, and being with the divine. And then allowing that to elevate you and to shift and help you to see things more clearly. And then the last step that I want to share with you today is about taking micro steps every day. And so again, this isn't supposed to be a rushed process. This isn't something that is like, okay, we got to do 20 things and like kind of get back into alignment. This is about really trusting and honoring the divine path, and knowing that as you are making these changes for yourself in terms of your life, your environment, like I said, number one, so key, so important for you to be aware of your environment, but also in terms of what you're connecting with spiritually, energetically, and then any intuitive steps that come through along the way. And an intuitive step or a micro step might simply be, okay, today I'm going to dedicate 10 minutes to my spiritual practice, or today I'm going to dedicate 5 minutes to simply sitting in the energy of God. Like something simple like that. It doesn't have to be like I have to go and do all these things and do that and do that and do that. That will come eventually. And you'll know when the time is to do and have more of that action doing part. But it's really about understanding that everything that you are doing in terms of the connection, in terms of removing your exposure to environments that don't serve you, all of that is part of the micro steps, and just taking it day by day, step by step, one step at a time, not trying to look too far ahead and like, okay, what are we going to do after this? Is it a month from now, and 2 months from now, and 3 months from now? When am I going to experience this kind of shift? Our human brain loves to know, or to ask, when is this going to happen? How long is it going to take? Is it going to take me 1 month or 5 months? Or when am I going to see results? And the thing is that when we can, we're not really going to stop our brains from asking those questions. So it's less about not asking those questions. And it's actually more about just feeling comfortable with no answer to those questions. So if you find your brain saying, when are we going to see results? When is it going to happen? How long? It's like, yeah, I get you. You're trying to figure out how long. And I understand that you need to know, or you feel safe knowing the when, but I'm going to practice feeling comfortable in the unknown. And the more that we can get comfortable in being in the unknown and being in the present moment, and in this present moment, knowing and feeling how we have everything that we need, the more that we're able to trust in ourselves and trust in the journey and take the steps that are necessary to create the forward momentum and to create the changes in our life that we desire without the need to know when is it going to happen, when is the result happening, or whatever. And so that's the last step here, is the micro steps. Take it day by day, but really focusing on the present moment and how you have everything that you need in this present moment. So those are my tips for this kind of situation where you are wanting to have a breakthrough, wanting to release any stuckness and kind of start creating a shift moving forward. This is where you start. This is how you keep it going. And then you'll see how it all builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. So I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Let me know if this is something that you have experienced before, or maybe this is something that you're experiencing and going through right now. Post it in the comments. Let me know if this was helpful for you. And as always, if you have any questions for me for this podcast, you can always submit it at the link in the show notes, or go to CristinaAroche.com/ask-Cristina, Cristina with no H, and submit your question. And I'm happy to answer it on the podcast. And that's pretty much it for this episode today. I am always so grateful to every single one of you who is here, who is listening in, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this episode, then please, please, please feel free to share this with friends, family, communities, whatever it is for you. And make sure that you like this, especially on YouTube, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you're listening to this. It helps to get the word out there. And that's pretty much it. And then, of course, follow or subscribe to the podcast so that you do not miss future episodes. And on the YouTube channel, I have a whole bunch of other videos that I release every week around the angels and our connection and all of that. So I can't wait to see you there. Come and say hi. I am sending you so much love and angel blessings, and I will see you again very soon. Bye. Thank you once again for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And if you want to learn more about the Divine Connection podcast, you can go to CristinaAroche.com/podcast and learn about how you can be featured on the show.